Hey Collective, and welcome back to Altruistic Channels. I know that I've not been necessarily on this specific channel as much. I've been really heavily on the sister website, or the sister YouTube channel, called Altruistic Channels Arevalo. And that one's because it's more of a personal blog, and so as things change in this transitional phase as we go from 2020 into 2021, I've been called more to work with the collective that's already in the ascension process and are already on their path to enlightenment or enlightened and so forth. But this particular piece is something that I was asked to revisit because I had written this back in November of 2020 and I'd done it while still on mission. What's interesting about this article piece or this blog that I did for LinkedIn, which is called The New World, which you guys, I'll try to link down below the actual link to it so you can read it yourselves, was that I had to write these on buses because I didn't have any internet, so I had to literally go all over the city of LA during COVID, like trying to use the metro Wi-Fi, and so luckily I did because this piece came out of that. And so what I was asked to do was to revisit this particular piece because it'll set off the sequence of pieces that I did during a specific period that will be very, very helpful. They say it's implied that it's very, very helpful at this time in 2021. And as I go over it, I'm going to actually read it because it was very important that they wanted it said exactly the way I wrote it, because it's my verbiage and it's my words, and so they just want it to be almost like a cotillion type of thing, and I'm not sure I understand exactly what that means, but I'm going to be reading it verbatim and then stopping where I feel like a question might come and answer any questions that I feel are that I sense that is on its way. And that way we have an interactive experience where we collect more in frequency and we get to know each other a little bit more in case that we ever run into each other, so that you understand who you're meeting, okay? And so this piece is called The New World. Now, keep in mind that I've never been a reporter, so it's kind of like I'm reading from a prompter on my phone. It's my stuff, but I don't remember all verbatim. It's a pretty good article. It's just longer. And so as I learn, we're going to learn together, and we're going to bond that way. So if I look over down, which I'm probably going to do for this first couple times so I get used to it, just understand that it's me just reading. Okay. So it's called The New World. It's by me, Al Arevalo. It's on LinkedIn. The link will be below. And here we go. As 2020 comes to a close, I thought it best to summarize its legacy on our human psyche as a collective reset. Regardless of where you turn this year, we saw upheavals, turmoil, patriarchal structures break down, a questionable origins to a pandemic, loss of loved ones, and a world in a freefall state as it tries to catch up with itself and face an epic great divide amongst its citizenry. And that's just the tip of the hat to the dominoes that began to fall this year, leading our race right into what's to come in 2021. A year that will see the results of all of our choices made this year, 2020, and the fallout that will come with its natural progression of what I called the Great Dismantling, right? A moment in history where the universal consciousness shakes our reality loose of anything in our world not built on solid foundations or created under some form of false conditions and dishonesty, effectively bringing forth what we call in spiritual circles a collective tower moment. A tower is something that happens that is built on shaky ground and will collapse in on itself, for those of you who are not aware. So that's what we're referring to. So like any type of structure that was built on lies, hypocrisy, and all that stuff came tumbling down as we watched. And it had to do with the fact that we're being realigned, right? So and I go right into it actually, named for when a tower suddenly collapses due to its being poorly built or with shoddy materials. But instead of focusing on all that is or will be coming down through this transitional period, as a spiritual person, I chose to instead focus on the quiet beauty seen this year and offering us a much needed year of introspection, as I enjoyed the break that came along with the global realignment. In fact, in my following my own spiritual journey, my own path into the unknown as the years began, it saw me be gifted by the universe with a solid form of vacation surprise for my efforts here towards the end. Though I could not have foreseen exactly how it would come to me, the past couple months has seen all the pressures from that old life lifted, and a brand new beginning now in motion. So I took this time to pull away from my work and my writing and for the collective and learn how to enjoy doing absolutely nothing but meditate and face whatever I had left to work through as I prepared for what's directly ahead of us in 2021. Now, this is important for those of you who are about to go on mission, because this was while I was on mission. So you can look forward to things like this and epiphanies and wonderful experiences and rewards that you can't see coming, but you have to take the leap of faith, which most of you are doing right now, which I guess is why they're really wanting me to go through it. So in that time, I realized that I'd like to share with y'all what I'd like to share with you all now. So I'd learned something, and here we go. Things had to change, not just for me, but also for the collective total sum of humanity. We as a race had lost sight of what was truly important: our family, our methods of operation, our friends, and how we fit into this world. As a community, we had been ignoring equality for far too long. The way we take care of our children, our overall hypocrisy, and our ties to faith-based institutions that preach hate instead of love all had taken us off course. In our need to praise money instead of our highest expression as souls, our Creator, we each disconnected from our neighbors and communities, losing that sense of nurture that we once had. We had stopped visiting our older parents, had allowed the homeless plight to grow, and let the sex trade crimes go unchecked. Something I should note that was at the top of the news right before COVID is said to have come on scene. Whatever happened to all those important names that were on that list of offenders, I wonder, as it disappeared right around the time that the pandemic hit. In terms of our political systems, it had become a joke, and to that end, we now face a steep climb back to uniting our planet. Racism, and specifically in America, so uniting our nation and our planet as a whole. Racism and greed had been in control for far too long, and so it should come really as no surprise to anyone that the cosmos saw it fit to snap us back through the use of a man-made disease like COVID-19. Its arrival made our world come to a complete stop and focus on our health as a race instead of just as individuals, and made each of us hunker down, not knowing what will happen next or who would go on into the new world unfolding. It forced us all to face our fears, our insecurities, and made us start enjoying each day as though it might be our last. After all, by now it should be clear to the collective that the world is not getting larger, it's getting smaller. It's shrinking. Something that will not change for some time, I'm afraid. But is there not a one of us who isn't now grateful to still be alive, and that our world still goes on at all? If there any one of us who has not begun finding their way back to themselves as their higher expression and what's really important to you as a person? Have you not begun your journey home to the divine creator, Allah, whoever you call God, under whatever the name is that you've assigned its praise? It was a reset, and we really needed it. Still, whenever the collective consciousness has needed to shift its perspective in some way in the past, the outcome has been much darker and less of the buildup that we're experiencing as we head into this year. And that is something we should all be grateful for. I reasoned that, as despite all the fault that's falling apart around us, we lost less people than usual for this type of event. So in terms of this piece serving as my return to this new world emerging, I thought I'd focus its efforts on what lays before us all. In spiritual terms, the new phase of consciousness is said to be the point in which we as a race are to be awakened to the harsh truths about our civilization, and in doing so, come to grips with the fact that next year, 2021, which we're in now, we'll see many of us have to make some really hard choices, or at the very least, we'll see most of us head straight into an economic unknown period where our race will need to learn to lean on each other. The incoming awareness that is upon us as a collective is that we are not alone in this. We as a group must now put aside our differences so as to begin working with each other if we hope to get through the choppy waters ahead. Everything from how we treat ourselves, your family, and others to the company that you keep moving forward is coming into question. Whereas the old reality we just left in 2019 to 2020 saw an endless number of pathways available to choose from, we will now see a major change in opportunities and the amount we are offered. As we progress, you will now begin to find that your soul's purpose is now paramount to your successes. And so it's important, it's coming into your awareness, into your awareness as we speak. So the plight of our world will begin quickly narrowing those old options down further and further. As a result, I begin calling this next phase for the collective called Karmic-ghedon. Get it? Named for how our successes and failures as individuals will foreshadow what is in store for humanity as a whole. It is said that we as a race must now face our shadow side, those things we don't want to look at in ourselves, much less in our communities. But if we are to thrive again as a society, we'll need to do so in order to bring balance into what's to come. For peace, we must first walk through the chaos of change, something that we as individuals do not like doing. But it's not up to us anymore. This is the divine will. And as it turns out, why most of us have chosen to incarnate at this most tumultuous of times. We have the once in a creation cycle opportunity to not only find our divinity, but to also help other planets and our whole race advance into the higher realms of universal consciousness. So we must find our spiritual centers, clean up anything therein or near it and take accountability for it all. A process needed so as to then work through the lower expression of the physical world where we react with denial of truths from places of fear or from hypocrisy. Truth of truth is that not everyone will get to see the new world that's coming. And so I would suggest we just make peace with that and keep our sides of the street clean from anyone else's karma. The race is at a point of no return. We are being forced to choose our path carefully, come what may. Do we continue going down the way we were, in polarity, in denial, or in disregard for what's needed to be done to rebalance our reality to gain a stable footing again, or do we join the new reality upon us where we learn to work as one? One race, one mission, one outcome. There is no such thing as there's so much awaiting our race, in the near future, waiting in the ethers for our collective to use its free will for the betterment of the world and us as a whole. Things like the ancients being en route back, the truth of our hybrid origins now settling into our state of awareness, and an amazing new opportunity to connect with our Creator, whatever you call it, in your own way and under your own hodgepodge of ideology. Actions that will break us free from the old timeline and broken record we were just leaving. This is the great earth split that everyone's been talking about. The moment in our progression where new abilities are discovered, new intellects are revealed, secrets of any missing segments of our civilization's history, and how it plays into the fabric of all creation comes forward. Some of us will go on to see a new world where equality reigns supreme, where science and faith will marry, and where our consciousness will grow leaps and bounds. Where the only difference between our children will be found in how they look, but not how they feel about this great opportunity called life and all they are once again afforded in it, providing that much expected quantum leap, forward that the Mayans spoke about in 2012. From within this new renaissance, things like space travel will become real. Quantum mechanics and our understanding of our race's origins and its purpose will all materialize and grow and prosper. On the flip side of that is that sadly most people may deny our collective's need to change our current trajectory and will try to go back to the way things used to be, a door that is now forever closed, I'm afraid. Those who choose to not find their higher power in this new state of being or their truest self and purpose will almost fade from view to all of those who are willing to do the work being asked of us now, a separation from each other in every possible way. It is not the intention of the divine that the majority of our species survive the transition. The intention is that enough of us who are willing to do what's needed make it through. That could be a handful of people or to a few million, but the number will fluctuate based on what we decide to do and if we put our attention and effort to it. Something to keep in mind as this continues to move forward. This divide is designed to keep the race growing and learning, but requires sacrifices from us all. If it will help us each get to a place where we can choose, we will choose appropriately for our soul and our endeavor in life. But rest assured, November is serving as the sorting ceremony, where with the election now being over, our lives will be refocused back onto our karmic debt. And so our shadow side now takes the divine's focus in this new reality we're experiencing. As you can see by how this period has begun with 2020, you will not be able to escape this collective odyssey emerging. And so by now, each of you must sense it. The hive as a whole should be aware of the matrix we live in needing change. And so our planet Earth should become a central focus point for various reasons. The days of arguing whether or not global warming is cyclical and or being expedited by our actions is moot. The Earth will take back its power from us as a species, even at its own sake, and that is part of the divine plan. We are set to enter a new phase of consciousness, and the first stop is autonomy over our God-given planet and its own ascension into the higher realms, one closer to the source of all creation and an aspect of the divine plan, and will bring us closer to our origins and to the Almighty itself. This is not just speculation, but what is transpiring. The next greatest piece of advice I can give us all is to find a way to be of service to our communities and our world. As I mentioned before, we are entering Karmic-ghedon, an era where we each must work through our past energies and actions upon this world so as to prepare for whatever our resulting fate will be as final judgment is called. Serving humanity in some form or fashion moving forward makes great strides to rebalancing the past karma from actions that affected our world negatively. That pieces are in place now. It's just a matter of what we as a collective choose to do before it's formally handed down and judgment is called. Gone are the days of getting away with things that are not for your highest good, or that are achieved in dishonest or hidden manners. As from what I can see, the karmic backlash will almost be immediate, something so as to constantly remind us of where this is all going and what we're running out of time on within the matrix setting. Regardless of whether you view what's unfolding as Judgment Day or the point of our collective initiation to our higher state of consciousness, we are going to all be meeting the face of God and face His army in the next few years. Regardless of if you are a believer or not, trust that this is most definitely an endings, period, a transitional phase for the majority of the race. And so none of us, thus far, are assured a new beginning to come. If I'm wrong, then the worst that has happened is that we each cleaned up our lives and realigned it with our soul's truest purpose. But if I'm right, then wouldn't you give anything in the world to ascend to a better place rather than a worse one? We're talking about your soul's eternal flame, not some sort of promotion at work. Keep that in mind. In some faiths, this era is known as the burning ground, and it's said to be the purification point where the heart cleanses its misdeeds or past experiences, as it must be lighter than a feather when we are called to face a continuation on into this new future of co-creation, something that translates to a life well lived in honesty, humility, love, grace, and gratitude. Failure on any one of those points will have realignments assigned to each of our lives, and most will be unseen and unwelcome. The interesting part of it all is that there should be no greater reward in our minds than to have done our best in this world, no matter what comes our way, and the idea of going home to our Divine Father should be experienced in celebration, and yet so many seem to flee it, which confuses me. Shouldn't the idea of finally being at peace in a higher state of consciousness be something we should all want to experience? If that is not what you're feeling, then take this month or this time to ask yourself why. Is it that you wish you had more time? As if so, what have you been doing with the time that you've been given? What is it that you've been waiting for? I say this era and this period because the dominoes that fall this year begin to accelerate us into a plethora of fallout to come next year, which is now 2021. In my opinion, as we head into the holidays in this new reality of a heightened awakened state, every moment you have with your closest loved ones should be taken seriously as a blessing and with joy, as the world is now going to get increasingly smaller and smaller. Change has begun, and it appears it calls for us to face a form of societal upgrade that judges whether we are of service and have a purpose or have proven redundant. There are new souls that have never incarnated before with fresh ideas and new manners of thinking. Just take a moment to ponder the implications of that alone. Individuation is to be cherished and a part of the plan, but in the end, each piece is set to fit perfectly into a new puzzle just coming into view. The entirety of this new world view requires each of those present to serve their role to the fullest and with transparency. If it's not, then they're going to ask you, why are you here? Once you have cleaned your own pathway within your spiritual practices, the manner in which you are meant to serve the collective will become clearer to you, or outright just shown to you. The more you learn to balance your own desires with your service to others or to our planet or spiritual calling, the more the pressure might be lifted off of you directly as our collective consciousness begins manifesting physical changes to our experience based on either a higher vibrational center or from an erratic place of fear and confusion. And then there is the obvious statement that follows, that no matter how much you've grown or invested in your own spiritual development, sometimes what needs to happen to the collective sum of us is to know what's coming and to just let it happen. If they want to eat cake, let them eat cake. Something that ultimately tests our own faith in just knowing that you are secure in how you have moved into this new reality. If you are of service, then there is no need for a realignment or penalties, is there? Trust in your own intuition and let faith guide you on, which means that part of our new reality will be to learn to step back at times and just observe the events unfolding, so as to learn from the experiences we witness and take the wisdom gained into our futures and not personally get involved. Something that takes a lot of personal development to do, as it requires you to put into practice with your closest of friends and your adult family first. As things continue to fall apart, tons of voices will try and profit from claiming that their way is the best way, and so each of us must transcend this period by listening to our inner voice, our intuition, and following our divine wisdom through the shadows to come. An act that can lead some to the wrong conclusion or leave them afraid to make hard choices, and so you must stand clear of their fated outcome. In this new space we're heading into, we are not to judge or to try to change anyone else's trajectory, and are to just begin moving to a live and let live society that does not somehow interfere with another person's life or another life expectancy. As long as they're not a danger, it is none of our business. If we get involved, our attention will focus on those things and on those people's issues, and not be present for our own truths to come forward, something that will cost you time and energy you should be spending on your own soul's development. Also, if you get involved in other people's drama, then be advised that you may be attaching or getting part of that karma attached to your karma, which is not what you want as we face this initiation phase. Though karma is not avoidable, it's important to stay away from adding more negative karma to your own soul's journey, especially if you've yet to ever, in this lifetime or any other one, clear karma or negative karma from previous experiences. Very important. That is not to say that if someone is in trouble that we should not get involved, but you all should know the difference. Additionally, we as individuals are sometimes tasked with going back through our past so as to retrieve soul fragments or fragmentation that were lost to trauma, or during events that took us out of our truest natures. Moments in our histories that have taken our purest light from us and altered the natural vibration each soul brings into the world. In recent years, we've come to understand that everything physical carries with it a vibrational signature that helps our overall reality form, like a huge symphony playing an old standard from our heyday. The universe to that end is like an orchestra leader, and so it is as much as alive as we are, just on a different frequency than we are. Comets and meteors don't just inadvertently or accidentally hit our planet. They are the equivalent to sperm hitting the egg we call Earth. They carry new bacteria or additional microbes which somehow help our world strengthen, even if it must struggle at the beginning. Everything introduced is thereby done so purposely, and soon our race will need to purify the vibrational frequency of our planet if we are to advance in the world of physics, astrophysics, and move into the galactic universal consciousness. There are beings that are waiting to meet us, but we must pass this initiation. As individuals, helping purify your own vibration becomes a lot like tuning your vocal cords, and so experiencing your life as evenly as possible greatly affects the whole of our reality in the tone you are designed to play. Staying balanced will become your mission so as to rebalance the Earth's song, so its own safety and its own progression forward in the near future is done properly. That's why you will find a massive push to face your demons and your own fears first as individuals, and then even more quickly as a collective, as it alters our design's purpose and throws off the whole performance within our universal matrix. Too much variation just makes a mess of our consciousness, which affects our collective's experience and the harmonies that keep our sense of reality in check, as we've seen. Imagine it this way. A world that is built of equal parts will form a natural vibrational frequency of quiet peace and almost melody. But a world divided in fear or in hatred will produce a loud static that can begin affecting the neighborhood around it, if you catch my drift. Something that one day may make our neighbors focus a little bit too much attention onto us when maybe we weren't meant to meet them, or maybe not meant to meet them yet. Personally speaking, I find that by including song or family sing songs into our daily activity, it helps us all as souls and as beings visualize our vibrational output. By focusing on all that aspect going forward, you should be busy enough, as sometimes finding your frequency requires taking accountability in things where you originally felt victimized, something that can stump the best of masters. So adding others' past issues or karmic problems is not advisable for all those reasons. But with the sours and hard work comes great rewards. The new emerging hybrid consciousness will see our race advance in technology, in the arts, mathematics, and sciences in ways that will blow your fracking mind. And it's said to be why the ancient ones that created us are on their way here. Though I should be clear and say that it may be closer to the truth that they've always been here and are just now ready to step forward, but I digress. In any event, as they are revealed, a moment soon to come will set off its own chain of events for the betterment of the planet. But in order to meet that timeline in the best possible manner at the right frequency and tonality where everyone's safe, we must all be willing to step it up and free ourselves from the shadow nature of our present and especially of our past. As a race, we currently experience our day-to-day anchored to past events personally and even more greatly as a whole. In order to break that free, we must address the past hurts once and for all and rectify that karma, including racism, homophobia, sexism, all of it. Something which will require us all to face it in very short order. Failure on any of that will continue to impede our progression because the souls will stay chained to those memories, so they can't move on. So if something does happen to the planet, they will go with it, and it's not even their fault. Something that keeps them stuck. Within the next 30 years, there is going to be a set of natural disasters that will require our entire clan's focus so as to help our race continue into the next phase of consciousness. A final testing phase, if you will, for the collective as it moves forward, to prove it is worthy of what it is asking to do. Example given. If we are sitting here playing with pandemics and disease to hurt other people, acting like God, then you must be worthy of that ability. Yes? We are not, because we can't even take responsibility for the fuck up we just did. Get it? So until that aligns itself, be very conscious of what you're putting into your body. That is not speculation. That is part of the plan. Sometimes when brothers and sisters lack motivation, or for whatever reason just can't come to a consensus, a common threat must be introduced naturally into that environment, which will act as a propellant to get them all on one page. If we are smart, then we should seek this manner of living with vigor and of our own accord now, so that we keep control of how it comes to us. Because if God calls this, or if the universal consciousness source says how this comes, we're SOL. The next phase is one where we as a species pass or fail together. You cannot be afraid of the dark once you've become the light by which you make your own doorways out. We are heading to a new Jerusalem descending, a new Eden understanding, and to be present for the most wonderful of opportunities in the world, where your soul and your family souls will give anything more money than gold, or more value than gold, I should say, that has ever been built in the world, if you are to be present for what is to come. They are going to be walking amongst this new world unfolding, and we are their forerunners. As hybrids, many of you know innately who they are, but for the purpose of this piece, I'll just recommend that you start looking into your own ascension path and what exactly we are referring to in terms of the collective consciousness of man. In an effort to be of service in that regard, I'll be posting the next article piece on what that entails tomorrow by mid-afternoon. In the end, everyone heading into 2021 has the same chances of prospering in this new reality. Just understand that karma plays the bigger part. It just needs our attention and desire to ascend the madness. The will of God is your heritage. The will of man is of our making. To rise above the chaos and create a reality where both wills balance the other is what's in motion. Our future is assured. We must just choose, once and for all, which side of the coin we are going to land on. In the end, whatever is in store for us as a collective will be a reflection of our divinity in him, her, or it, whatever you call it. Whatever is revealed can thereby not take that aspect of your face from you, as you are a reflection of the Creator in physical form. You have the power to change this world. Love, peace, and light. Al Arevalo, the Buck Queen, Cancer Moon, Leo Rising. And that's how I concluded the piece. As you guys can see, and this was written a while ago. I've written 3 books, I've written a bunch of things, but this in particular caught the Divine's attention and wanted me to revisit it because I had sent it out, and Mercury Retrograde is a really good opportunity to go back through it. And so I just wanted to share with you what the message was there and read it to you so that you can understand where we are coming from. And when I say we, there's a collective group of divine beings that are going to be moving forward very, very quickly. And those beings are not just any beings. They are being divinely guided. So be cautious that we have entered an era where karma is what pays your bills. Treat each other with love, respect, honor, and humility. Leave the ego at the door, because I cannot tell you how harsh the penalties are for big ego right now. We're moving towards a collective consciousness where we as a race take accountability for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters and actually help each other up. You are going to be tested. Follow the leadership that you are innately, intuitively being drawn to now. They are in your feeds. They are around you. They are people that you don't know, because if that was the case, you wouldn't be on the path that we're on. These are new people stepping forward. Look for the light. Follow the light. And be cautious of anybody who says that they know it all, because they don't. This is still in action. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will try to do another one. The next one would be the collective consciousness piece. And then I believe after that is the actual article piece on Karmic-ghedon. But things are moving kind of quickly in just my life in general. So I will try to do this today, do filming today, so that there's stuff still going out. But if not, please check out Altruistic Channel Arevalo, which is equally filled with information right now. And I hope you guys are blessed and have a wonderful day. That's it for me, guys. Bye.